Deputy Shortall asked about this, but the golden share and this thing, because yesterday my colleague, Deputy Duncan Smith, asked if this was a good model, if the Minister would recommend this as a model. And it seemed that he was like, yeah, this seems to be a great idea, like Minister having a golden share. I'm somewhat jokingly paraphrasing, but that is sort of what he said, that this seems to be a good model for a hospital, and then implying that it was a good model for other ways to do things, with the Minister having a golden share. Would you agree that this is a good model for either a healthcare setting or from a legal perspective as a way that the state should go forward for capital investment?
I think that the golden share model has been created to deal with the specific circumstances of this deal, and in particular, it wasn't in the original Mulvey plan, and it is one of the methods by which the state has attempted, the state side, I should say, has attempted to alleviate the concerns which were very clear at the time of the Mulvey report coming out, where it was going to be directly owned by the nuns, albeit through the holding company, but that the nuns were the ultimate owners of the building and the hospital. And I think the golden share has been created to deal with that problem. I don't see that problem will arise in many other sets of circumstances that are the same. So I'd say I'd be surprised if we had the same kind of solution being proposed for other HSE hospitals, for example. But it should be noted that the golden share in itself is intended to be able to tell the directors to provide for legally permissible services. That's what it says in section 5. I shall land upon the number now. 5.3. And the Minister holds a share referred to as the golden share, provides legal protection to the inviolability of the reserve powers in the manner provided for in this Constitution, to ensure the obligations of the directors as contained in the Constitution complied with, and to ensure that any maternity, gynecological, obstetrics and or neonatal services which are lawfully available in the state shall be available in the new National Maternity Hospital. And I'm sure the Minister probably read out that exact same phrase to you yesterday. It is a very strong phrase to underpin the functioning of the delivery of lawfully permitted services. And it is not qualified by saying lawfully permitted and clinically appropriate. It's unqualified. Unfortunately, as it says itself, it's only in relation to the reserve powers. It only goes so far as the reserve powers are able to go, and the reserve powers are subject to that clinically appropriate and lawfully permissible test. And I do not, as I say previously, I'm not advancing a particular interpretation as being accurate in terms of those, in terms of that interpretation. I am advancing the position, and I think it's self-evident over the last week, that it is ambiguous. There are a number of different interpretations that can be placed depending on your point of view. And that is in respect of now, in respect of people who have a shared set of life experiences, and does not take account of what might happen in 10, 15, 20, 100 years' time. So the suggestion by the Minister that it would be defined, okay, that is good and very important if it must be left in, but at the moment there hasn't been a good reason to leave it in at all. It's clear from the golden share that the Minister's intention is to deliver all lawfully available services. The Minister isn't looking to have these things clinically appropriate and lawfully available. The HSE are the source of its imposition into the deal, but that's within the gift of the state to decide not to go ahead with it. Rather than create a problem where you create a list of definitions and you make it non-exclusive and you ask everybody, is this okay, is that okay? Surely the correct response would be to simply remove the controversial clause, which has not got the need for it, which is needed for the other, as the other definitions do. It is the reason which has been given is that it's needed to ensure only maternity hospital services are provided. But if we look at the permitted use clause, the top of the Constitution, it already says that it is for legally permissible healthcare services by a maternity, gynecological, obstetrics and neonatal hospital. If that's the purpose, clinically permissible, is to say, oh, and it's for clinical, for national maternity hospital usage, it's a redundancy. It's saying the same thing twice. And if it's a redundancy that puts the future interpretation of all of the protections that are in the agreement at risk, I would say the correct response would be to take it out as the preference and only as second best an attempt to define it.
Okay, and I think my understanding was someone was on saying that there were the fact that that's missing in the clinically appropriate is missing in relation to the minister. That was a drafting issue, that they actually are now saying that that was supposed to be there. So which is interesting to me, because we've yet to be updated with a fixed that was. And we may be able to discuss that in the next session with the legal, and I will ask that in the next session, what's going to be done because that's actually quite a significant
If it were to
omission.
be introduced, it would fetter the minister's powers in the future.
Okay, yeah, so that's interesting. I'll see clarity in the next session on this. Just a thing you said around, you mentioned that the option, that Dr. Boylan, that Beaumont had, not Beaumont, Bon Secours had merged with an American charity, and that there's a potential for that to happen with this. Can you elaborate a little bit further on that? Because in all of our discussions thus far, and I was in private meetings and public meetings, all that's not something that has either been discussed or nor then therefore have we had an opportunity to question and allay fears around that.
Yeah, if you look at the Constitution, what you see is that they have the power, the directors have the power to merge or to mortgage or to sell and so on. So the example that I picked is of the Bon Secours, which has, I think, about 6 or 7 hospitals in Ireland, and they have a huge healthcare organisation, Catholic based, in the United States. And in the United States, there are many Catholic healthcare organisations with a lot of different hospitals, and they are always looking to expand and to merge and acquire other healthcare organisations. So you will have St. Vincent's Healthcare Group, which will have an adult hospital, it will have a maternity hospital, it will have a private hospital, and it will then have St. Michael's, perhaps as an elective hospital. So it's a very valuable asset. And if the directors have the powers to merge, what's to say that they're not going to merge with an American Catholic healthcare organisation? There are many of them, and they're enormously wealthy.
Okay, and
the constitutions don't protect against that.
Okay, because we had a discussion last night where there was this thing put forward that you can only, not in this group, sorry, a discussion in a different meeting around that they could only take out a mortgage against the future value of it, which would be at the end of the term, which is in 300 years. So this is I was also somewhat confused. So just, if you can give Mr. McGarr maybe a legal analysis as to whether because we were told that they cannot really in any way, manner or form take out a mortgage against this particular building, if you will, or site, or what?
Just to speak in general, not the specifics of because I'm obviously, but to speak in general, a landlord interest, a freehold interest in land, is an interest. It can be charged. A tenant's interest in land can also be charged as well. It is not correct to say that no landlord's freehold interest can be subject to a mortgage. That isn't the case. The terms of the lease, as it is eventually agreed, will include clauses that deal with under what terms can a mortgage be placed upon it, under what circumstances could such a thing happen. If you come back to me in 3 minutes, I'll tell you which term it is, because I have to land on it in the lease. But it is addressed always within the landlord and the tenant as part of the lease agreement.
So I think in 6.4,
6.4.
earlier.
Oh yes, I beg your pardon.
They are free to mortgage it after 20 years, and in the first 20 years with written consent. Okay, so that's the time scale.
There we go. That's the end. I
Spared me the search.
Yeah, because it seems to be this is one of these ones that, it seems to be pretty clear that they can in some circumstances. Yet we were told explicitly that they can't do that because of various legal this, that, and the other. So again, in the next session, it's a question I'm happy to ask again, because I'm not entirely clear on the answer on that. It just seems to me that we had a great opportunity here to really put it up to private business, the church, whatever, and really set forward a vision for kind of a secular, progressive, moving forward Ireland, and do that with our flagship maternity hospital. And it seems that we're not going to grab the bull by the horns on this one. I think that's a real shame. Actually, women and women's healthcare has suffered long enough, and I'd love if we had, well, the government had the gumption to seize that bull by the horns, but I'll leave it at that for now, if that's okay,
Thanks very
Chair.
much.